Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my daily market analysis and insights. Today, we're going to be covering the impact of Jerome Powell's speech on Thursday last week on the markets, what we've seen happen in the S&P 500 since, and where we think it will go in the coming days. Some of the key events of this week, such as earnings and so on. And then we're going to be covering cryptos, commodities, and also some key opportunities such as the Chinese market, gold, and a number of other opportunities I'll be mentioning here and discussing and sharing with you guys. So let's get right into it. I want to go into my my charts, and I want to discuss straight away what happened last week in the S&P 500 that kicked off a sell-off around Thursday and Friday. Just need to get this ready. Just one moment. Right, so last week we had the Fed and Jerome Powell in particular interrupt the stock market after the rally that transpired after the election. And to be honest, I was already expecting this, regardless of what Jerome Powell was going to say. There is a dip after the election. There is a bit of hype around the election initially, a buy up, and then it was due a dip. I mentioned a number of other factors as to why this was going to happen. So I'm going to go into it in this video as well to remind you guys as to why that happened on a technical perspective and also looking at the data. So if we look at the S&P 500, this is how it closed on Friday. It closed overall red on Friday with financials doing really, really well. And typically when financials do well, the economy is pretty strong. And I think that's something that we can safely say that the US economy is still showing strength regardless of some key signs in jobs and other economic factors showing a little bit of weakness. We are still seeing strength in the markets, so financials are doing well. Then we saw utilities move up a little bit higher as the market sold off tech and a few other ones. So this is just money cycling in from tech into utilities and financials. At the end of the week, so the whole week, what we saw was around 295 of the 500 stocks in the S&P 500 closed green or above with a profit. And I think the average for the whole of the S&P 500 was around 1% average loss and a 2% overall loss on the S&P 500 for the week. And as you can see here, most of that came through from tech. So with Nvidia showing some weakness and a few other key tech players such as Meta and Google and Amazon. That's why we saw a significant sell-off in S&P 500. And as you can see here, financial is doing extremely well and many other ones moving positively, with energy looking to recover after that big sell-off that it's experienced in the last few weeks and months. So that's overall what's happened in the S&P 500 last week and also Friday. Now moving forward, I want to discuss here that we already predicted that we were going to get a dip here. The whole of last week was about this dip coming in. I started mentioning that we were probably going to get the dip to the 20 EMA here, which we ended up achieving, which is around 5,800. And I think we can go as deep as this 5,700 level. And again, I've mentioned this a number of times. Once we go to that level, then we're probably going to be seeing a buy up from institutions. So the sell-off is only temporary, in my opinion. It is a dip after a key event, which I would say is the retail inflows coming in here and peaking on early November. And we also saw a peak around March of last year, and then we saw that big sell-off. So probably peaking inflows here from retail and then a sell-off. And then after that sell-off, we get a buy up, and then it moves back up higher into these levels where we're discussing. Goldman Sachs and many other analysts are discussing levels such as 6,300 and then 6,700. And as I mentioned last week, we saw the RSI moving down slightly more. And I expect this to go down below this 50 level as it sells off, brings in a lot of investors coming in with puts, maybe even traps them. And then I think institutions will be buying around this level, 5,750, or maybe even a little bit lower, accumulating here for that big run up in 2025. That's my prediction. Obviously, we'll have to see how it moves. And based on sentiment, I covered this on Friday last week. Based on sentiment, that's probably what's going to happen here. So with sentiment, we're seeing the sentiment shift to bullish. So we have 49% of traders and investors believing that the market is bullish in the next 6 months. And we saw that shift of around 9% going into bullish rather than going into bearish and neutral. The bearish side with members staying around the same level. And I'm expecting this to drive the S&P 500 higher. However, I am also very cautious here with the spread. I don't like the spread around over 25%. So if we get a spread that's higher than 25%, then I'll be cautious. I don't want to, obviously it could be, a temporary factor where we get a temporary dip and then we go back up higher. But yes, this is something that I'm worried about. And I discussed last week the VIX. I mentioned around Wednesday or Thursday that we're probably going to get a spike up in the VIX, and that's exactly what we've seen. And I mentioned that it was going to go around the 15, 17 area. It was due that correction, and as a consequence, the S&P 500 will sell off. That's exactly what happened, and I expect it to potentially even go a little bit higher here as we get that dip to the 5,700 on the S&P 500. So that's something to watch out for. And overall, though, in the markets post-election, we are seeing a very, very similar movement in the market in terms of where investors are positioning themselves. And as you can see here, the S&P small cap 600, the industrials, the financials, the materials, the energy are doing really well. And that's because the policies are very similar. So Trump has come in, similar to 2016, these industries are going to do well with these policies. So that's where the money's flowing. And I think small caps are due a run. The Russell 2000, I've mentioned a number of times in my other videos during last week that the Russell 2000 is due a run for around 40%. So that's something to watch out for. And usually after an election, it runs for that amount of percentage in terms of the gains that we see in the Russell 2000. So with Goldman Sachs, they're starting to speculate now in terms of the policies that Trump will be following through with in the next 4 years. This is an overview of the policies that they're expecting. And fine, we can speculate these, and I like to look at them and have a general idea of what he's planning to do. However, maybe not all of them will go through. And even if all of them did go through, I'm looking at the price action like I have been, that there will be sell-offs. There will be periods where, there'll be slowdowns in the market and then a run later on. So at the moment, that slowdown is happening, consolidation, sideways movement, and then we get a buy up from institutions and hopefully a run to higher levels on the S&P 500 in the next few months. Okay, so with this coming week, what I'm looking for, there isn't much in terms of economic data from the US at least. So what I'm looking at mainly are earnings. Okay. And the one that stands out to me is Nvidia on Wednesday. This one will determine where the market will move this week. And as you can see, here's a plus minus 7.8%. So you can move either way by 7%. I am looking very bearish here on Nvidia. And one of the factors is we're seeing it being covered in the news extensively. Like Barron's magazine is covering Nvidia, saying that it can go to new highs, etc., etc. These are negative signs. I'm also looking at Chinese stocks, as I've mentioned. Big believer that Chinese stocks now are due a move higher after correction to the 60, so 0.8, 0.618 Fibonacci level. I expect the overall Chinese market to move higher. So we have NIO, we have Baidu here, two stocks I'm looking at in terms of investing in those in the next few days on a run to higher levels. And then we have Walmart and so on. So this is something that I'm watching very carefully, and I want to see how the market reacts. I think we had this one basically declare its earnings today, and we saw a move up in Chinese stocks off the earnings. So let's see. With the rest of the market, though, one of the things I covered in terms of opportunities, I covered gold last week, and I said now we're getting into a buy-in level. And if we look at it today, which we will in the next few minutes, we'll see that gold is being bought up and it's moving up higher here. And I mentioned that we could see a price action similar to this one. So move up higher, a retest, come back down lower, and then a retest, and then move higher, start creating these higher lows, and then start developing a trend as the RSI stabilizes around this level. At the moment, we're around here and we're seeing a bit of an uptick. I'm going to cover that shortly in a chart. So if we go into my charts, you'll get to see that gold is following the trajectory of the analysis I just provided. And I provided this last week as the market was falling. So I was already prepared for that type of price action. As you can see here, we're seeing gold with an uptick and following the trajectory that I've laid here until this level. Now, this level is probably a key level to decide whether we get another continuation on this bull run up to 1,900, or we get this dip, as I predict, around this level, which is a nice support level here for institutions to start accumulating and central banks to start accumulating and move back up higher. Seeing as we're covering gold, I want to cover silver. Silver is also moving higher here slightly. Again, I expect silver to test 31K, the 31 level here as outlined on the path that I've drawn, and then probably come back down and then start creating a lower low and then a higher low and then so on, and then develop that momentum again in the markets. So let's get into some analysis here. I want to go into the S&P 500. We discussed briefly the S&P 500, but I want to cover it in more detail, where I think the levels are in the next few days and weeks. And then we're going to go into crypto, and then we're going to go into commodities, and then finally we're going to go into some ideas that I have for this week or for the next couple of weeks in terms of where I'm looking to position my capital and where I want to circulate and cycle in my capital in the markets. Fine. So let's go into S&P 500. So S&P 500, like I said, I'm expecting a 5,700 move here. That would be a perfect buy the dip area, but it also could signal a significant move going down to lower levels, such as draw these levels, such as 5,400. Now, I don't expect that to happen. I honestly think we get a retracement move to around 5,700, and then we have to get that momentum back up. So as we can see here, it's already fallen 2%. We can see it move down here to 5%. That's a good level for people to think that is affordable and it's at a better price to buy, especially institutions. Or we can go to these lower levels around 5,500 and then get that dip bought aggressively after a significant move downwards. Nvidia will be the one that decides here. So we have to watch Nvidia very, very carefully this week. I think Nvidia decides. If Nvidia gets a dip, we'll get that fall all the way down to 5,700, and then we start seeing institutions probably accumulating stocks in S&P 500 as it falls down, and then we get the buy up or the momentum shifting to long again. As I mentioned earlier, this is a retail overflow, so there's retail flow coming in aggressively here, and we also saw that around this initial dip in around March, around March and June of last year. We saw retail coming in around these levels. Institutions won't be buying those levels. The Nasdaq, again, very similar. The Nasdaq probably gets a deeper fall because of the significance of Nvidia on the Nasdaq, and I'm expecting the 19,600 level as a key level for rebuy in the Nasdaq. I originally expected a sharper dip, but probably this is more realistic here before we go higher. the Russell 2000, we're getting that dip in the Russell 2000 as we are in the overall market. But with the Russell 2000, I do expect that this time next year we will be probably 40% up on the Russell 2000 because small caps will do well with Trump's policies. So that's something to watch out for, and that's something to look at as a key opportunity in the markets. I've already started positioning myself in the Russell 2000 and Russell 2000 stocks, and I am looking now for new opportunities as the market dips. Hopefully we get a significant dip and I can buy more opportunities in the small cap area. The VIX is moving higher today as well. Let's look at the VIX, or look at it on the daily chart to be able to see where sentiment will be shifting, whether fear is kicking into the market or not. And as you can see here, volatility is slightly up today, but we'll probably see in a few hours where we'll go on market open. Okay, I think we can go as high as 20 on this dip if Nvidia shows weakness, and then we can come back down again as the market shifts back up to a bullish momentum for the next 6 months. Okay, now let's go straight into crypto here. Bitcoin is the key crypto that we're going to look at, and I've mentioned that I've traded this up and down throughout the last few weeks and months. I always trade Bitcoin, and one of the things I'm noticing with Bitcoin here is we're probably going through a mini consolidation around this area. And one of the things that we could probably get is a bullish flag forming. So we get a price action which is within a channel descending here, okay? And then we get that continuation. We can get a box like we are right now, and then we move higher. One of the things I want to see, ideally, is I want to see a dip to around 82,000 on Bitcoin, and potentially if we can get a deeper dip, which will be even better for long-term investors if we're looking to buy more into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. We want to see a retest of this significant resistance area, because this would then solidify that we don't come back to this area for a very, very long time. So if we can get a retest here, turn this into support after it was resistance for a long, long time, we then get a big run here, and I think we can go to 120k by the end of this year or early next year. So that's my target here on Bitcoin. I am in a trade here, so although I'm saying I want to dip, I don't mind if this goes to 120k straight away. I bought it at a good level around 69, and I also bought previously around 63. So overall, with my reinvested profits, I am around 43% just on this last two moves here on the market. I've also traded many of these other moves here on the trend. So yeah, Bitcoin is on this level. Ethereum, we'll cover Ethereum here really quickly. Ethereum has shown a little bit more weakness than Bitcoin. Again, consolidating around these key EMA levels. We could get that retest of 2,800, which is what I want, even though I am in a long position. That retest gives me an opportunity to buy again. So sell off, reinvest profits, and buy again more aggressively for that second momentum move, which is the most powerful move in the market. Cardano here is one of my top performing cryptos, and I'm going to do a separate video on this one in the next few days as to how I traded this and why I traded Cardano. As you can see here, I am 100% in profit, so I've doubled my money in the last 2 weeks, and I expect some weakness here. As we've seen here, some weakness. I expect a dip. I do want a dip here. So if we can get a dip overall in the market, it is positive for the market as it brings in new traders and investors. And I'm getting a lot of people who haven't bought crypto yet contacting me now and saying, when is a good time to buy? Which basically means that we're now going into a stage of euphoria and thrill, okay? Or probably thrill, and then we're going to go into euphoria very, very soon. So we want those casual investors to now buy this second dip and then the price to move higher. We need that dip. Filecoin is also another one of my investments or trades. I've made a bit of profit here. I've just started buying this one around this level, and I wouldn't mind another dip here, to be honest, again, because I can accumulate again around this level on the $4 level for that move up to $7, maybe even higher to all-time highs around 12. Matic, very, very similar here to Filecoin, moved quite aggressively. And then we just saw some resistance here. Double top Atom moving quite well. Again, I want to dip. So at the moment, I'm waiting for that retest of these key levels and finding support at a new higher low, essentially. And then when that happens, then I'll be looking to buy and look for opportunities to go higher. One of my other trades here is Tesla. Tesla's doing really well today. It is up around 7% just today. Pre-market 6%. And I expect this one to run. So I'm trying to hold this as much as I can within my strategy. So not deviating from my strategy. I'm trying to hold this as much as I can because I think this could go to 400, maybe even higher here. I think we can go back to key levels historically, like the levels that we saw in 2021. So we're looking at around 420, maybe even higher now with Elon Musk being part of the administration, so the Trump administration. Another one that I'm in is IonQ, great quantum computer company here, but I am seeing that it's overextended. I did mention that the bearish divergence is coming here. And look, bearish divergence, I am looking to take a put now on IonQ all the way down to $20, maybe even $27, sorry, $24. So hopefully we can get a big move, a retracement here on the puts. That gives me some extra money as I'm riding this trend higher on the long term. Okay. And then now finally, I want to go into some ideas in the stock market. I want to go into some ideas for the markets in general. And then I want to go into commodities. So one of my ideas is AL, so Line Technology. I like the setup here because there's multiple retests on this level. It is not ready yet. Okay, so it needs a momentum move. It needs momentum to kick in. So that's probably a breakout above the $2.30. Then we'll probably look at Line Technology for a move much higher and a move. If we go to the long and draw in here, a move to make around 45% at 1 to 4 on this. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. 1 to 4, 1 to 5. We'll have to see. Chinese stocks are very interesting right now. So what's happened is if we go into, let's go and analyze commodities first, and I'll go back into Alibaba and Baidu and Li and a few other stocks. Okay, if we go into commodities, first thing I want to cover here is the Chinese market. Okay, HSI. So if we go in here, I wanted this retracement to the 0.618 level. We're getting that now, okay, around that level. And I'm expecting the Chinese market now to recover. And that recovery just on the HSI is, if we enter around this area, obviously give or take a few points, we can get 1 to 5. Now, I'll be looking at specific stocks here. So I'll be looking at Baidu, I'll be looking at Li, I'll be looking at Alibaba that can drive the HSI higher. And I think I can do maybe 30 to around 50% if we get a real move to these all-time highs and higher levels on the HSI, which I probably see around 28K. Again, that would be ideal. Okay. That move can then double my money on these investments that I'm making, and it has to be triggered by some stimulation from the Chinese. So I meant stimulus from the Chinese government. Okay. And let's go into commodities, other commodities here, and indices. I want to go into the dollar. The dollar now is looking at a point where it has to come back down. It is overbought. 07 here is a key area that I think is key resistance, and then comes back down. So for you forex traders and so on, you should be looking to go long the yen and euros once this happens. Moving on, I want to go into the DAX. I mentioned that this had a head and shoulder pattern, and it's looking very, very likely that we're going to get that dip in the DAX, okay? It's around the 1800 level. So the German market is due a huge correction, okay? That's something you guys need to watch out for. And then the CAC 40, which is the French market. Again, this one, I want a double bottom ideally. So here, I want another retest of this zone here. And for the UK 100, which is the FTSE 100, ideally I want that retest again. We have seen a bit of a retest around this area, but I'm thinking we can go a little bit lower, get the RSIs a little bit cheaper, and then we get the buy up in the FTSE 100. Okay, and now let's go into oil. Let's go into oil. Over and over and over again, last week I mentioned that we're going to go to 65, and it's looking very, very likely now on this Monday that we are on. So that's Thursday, but we are now due that move to 65, maybe even lower, but I'm hoping 65 because that's a key support area. If we get that level, then we can go higher and get support around this area, okay? So that's something that I'm looking for here, and then I'll be trading energy stocks and I'll be trading oil stocks. And I have a number of them that I'm watching. I've mentioned here previously in my channel. I also mentioned them in my Telegram group. Natural gas now is recovering a little bit. I mentioned that it was a bit flat last week, a bit of a recovery here, but yeah, it's a key area to probably sell around here and then maybe look to re-enter. I usually like to trail and then sell as and when I think the levels are going. Now, moving into industrial metals, I wanted to look at copper again. I mentioned that copper is entering these nice levels. So as you can see here, copper, I want it to retest. If it finds support here, it does, it's fine. But ideally, I want it to retest this area of 3.9 and then start creating higher lows, and then we can go higher highs and higher lows, and then we can buy probably around the $4.20 zone, and then for that move higher to around $5. Nickel is another one that I was watching and looking at last week. Again here, we're looking to find support around this area. We need price now to find support and then start showing some momentum moving up higher. So this is a good opportunity for 1 to 4, 1 to 3 risk reward ratio play. So 15% move on this one, but 1 to 4 is very, very nice. It's my type of play. Palladium, it's not really tradable for me. It's not one of the price action isn't quite nice here. So it's not really an opportunity. I did mention cacao last week moving up higher. So a bit of a dip here right now on cacao, selling off. What we want to see is a higher low. Okay, so if we can get a retest, higher low, and then we probably have a potential to move up now on a trending move with some higher highs and higher lows. Now, final bit I wanted to cover the 10-year Treasury. It's very important at the moment that we see where the 10-year Treasury is going to go. It looks to me like we're not going to see weakness yet. I thought we were going to see weakness around this area. It just doesn't look like we're going to see it. So let's see. Next levels above are 4.6 and then 4.7. Okay, we want to see those levels tested, and then we might see weakness. Now, the final bit is covering some ideas in the stock market. And I covered line technology a little bit earlier. Now I want to cover Alibaba and Chinese stocks. And then I want to cover pharma, and I want to cover oil. Okay. So with Chinese stocks, as you can see here, Alibaba getting to a level where it's becoming interesting to buy, especially when it's hitting these key Fibonacci levels. I don't use Fibonacci's often, but I use them on these kind of key retracement levels I want to see. You're seeing Alibaba around the 0.618 retracement. Key level, the overall market will probably move with Alibaba. So I am watching other stocks such as Baidu. Baidu has earnings this week as well, so it's worth a watch if you're looking to trade Chinese stocks. Let's see where Baidu is. Baidu, very, very nice, because with Baidu, what happened was I really liked this double bottom here and then the moving higher. I bought it, made around 15% on this trade in a few days. It went a little bit higher, sold some here, but overall I made around 16%. It's come back down now, completely taken the profits that it generated last run, and now I'm seeing another kind of bottoming area here. So potentially, if we get a little bit more of a dip, we see a triple support here, triple bottom, and then we can go higher again. But even if we get a move going higher now, on momentum, I'll probably look to buy it because the risk reward ratio is very nice. So 1 to 3.8, 1 to 4, basically, depending on where I place the stop loss. So 1 to 4 is a no-brainer for my strategy, where I have a win rate of around 60%. So also I am looking at EVs. Okay, so NIO has earnings today, this week. So NIO going into earnings, I think it's showing some strength. I'll probably buy a call option on NIO. Again, coming off these bottoms here was very, very nice. I didn't manage to trade this one. I traded Lee instead, but it was very nice here for a move of around 40%. And then now it's eaten away all of that momentum that it had in August, September. And now I'm looking for that next move on the long side, which will probably be the biggest move in the Chinese market, for another 50% with a risk of reward of 1 to 4 again. Okay, so no brainer here. If you have a winning strategy that produces about 50%, mine is around 60%. So yeah, so I'm excited about this one, and I'm excited about Lee. The reason why I like these EVs is they're doing pretty well now. And with Tesla moving higher, it could drag and pull the rest of the market higher as well. So with Lee, very, very similar. Lee might have some drawings here already. Yeah, so I made around 20% on this one. Didn't quite sell it when it peaked. And I'm looking for a move now that produces a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. But I think this can go even higher here. So, but minimum target 1 to 2.5. Again, a no-brainer if you have a strategy of a 50% win rate. And overall, the Chinese market, I think, will move in the direction that I'm mentioning here. And then finally, on an EV play, I have been looking at Polestar for a while. This is one that I really want to trade here. I love the consolidation here. I've already traded the initial move, so I've already made 75% on this one. I'm looking for another 46%. So in total, that would take me to triple-digit percentage returns on just the capital that I've reinvested into Polestar. So Polestar here is looking very nice, and it's kind of got a mini Head and Shoulders. So if we go here and draw, where is the drawing for Head and Shoulders? Somewhere. Don't usually use it, so yeah, there you go. Head and Shoulders. So it's got this Head and Shoulders price action if it moves higher from here. Okay, so as it breaks this neckline, I think that's when we get the momentum coming into Polestar, but we do need to see that momentum. Then yeah, we can go higher, make 46%, 1 to 2, maybe a 1 to 3 here actually. At least a retest of this recent high. Could go even higher, to be honest. A 1 to 5, 1 to 7, in my opinion. That's it. There is probably one more. Where is it? So right at the bottom here. So AMAT. This one is looking nice. Really sold off here recently. Has decent earnings, but yeah, selling off here, and I'm looking for that bounce off again around this area of 168, and then we get a move higher again, probably a 1 to 4 here. If I'm being honest. So if we look at where the levels are, 1 to 4 if we get the bounce here, but we probably might go a little bit lower in my opinion. So I'm just waiting. I'm not buying it yet. I'm looking for something like this, essentially. And then finally, I want to go into pharma. One of those pharma stocks that's been beaten down aggressively is Moderna. This is a vaccine producer, COVID vaccine, etc., etc. Heavily beaten down. But when you see RSI levels like these, okay, and then you go into the monthly and you just see this completely destroyed here, I'm thinking we're probably going to get some further downside momentum because of the RFK appointment in the Trump administration. So further downside here on Moderna, Pfizer, etc. And then these stocks are going to become so undervalued that they have to move up higher. And that's when you want to buy. So Moderna, Pfizer, etc. You have to look at it. Moderna is one of the key ones that you would probably want to trade here if you're looking to trade one of these pharma stocks on the bounce from all-time lows they might achieve, or these key levels of being undervalued here. Okay, so Moderna did really well in 2020, 2021 because of the vaccines, and then now if we get this final dip, RSI levels are just looking unbelievably low here. And if we look at Pfizer, let's see what Pfizer's done since the RFK appointment. Where is it? Someone. Okay, Pfizer as well. Look at this. Unbelievably low here. And ideally, I'd see the RSI go underneath here as well, and then maybe even retest. I mean, it's already retested that level. Maybe retest some historic lows. Let's look. I mean, I wouldn't mind this going all the way down to 21. This would be a nice level, 21. So that's the level probably that we're looking at after RFK is done with his policies and Donald Trump. So watching this one, it's a bit of a long-term one because you have to watch and wait for it to set up. But it's nice. And then you have energy as well. So you have oil. So if you look at rig here, it's going to go down a little bit lower with oil, of course, but very, very flat here at the bottom with a huge upside potential on rig. And then we have Oxy and a few other ones that I look at, but I don't want to go into too much here because these aren't actually set up properly. Align is probably one of the most set up ones. And also these Chinese stocks are the ones that I'm looking at for the plays this week, and probably looking to short some tech if Nvidia shows weakness on its earnings. So that was me done for today. I kind of did a bit more of a longer analysis here, showing you guys some ideas and tradable opportunities. With crypto, there's no tradable opportunities until we get that dip. So I'll be sharing that maybe in the next few days or weeks, hopefully after the dip. So if you guys are interested in seeing more ideas like this and sharing ideas with me to analyze them for free for you guys, I have a Telegram group. You can join there. I always discuss the markets. I provide extra insights there and have a conversation with you guys about the markets. We have 200 members and we're growing slowly. So in the next few weeks and months, we're probably going to get a couple thousand members who share their ideas and thoughts on the markets. And for you guys that like bite-sized content, not these 45-minute videos or 20-minute videos I make, you can go and follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Both of those are where I share bite-sized content on the key sections of the videos that I make here, but also some other insights that I think of during the week. All right, until tomorrow, take care.